Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in this wonderful world of ours. My name is Scott, and with me, as always, on these Mondays is Trina Paulus, the author of Hope for the Flowers. And you have several things on your mind, some caterpillars, but there's also some other things that are happening in the swirl. So I'm just going to hand it on over to you, Trina. Take it away.
Okay, what's the most special thing for today is not a very happy memory and not a very happy reality for our world. This is Hiroshima Day, and you see behind me my poster that I made in 1982 for the first anti-nuclear march and rally at the UN to try to come to something about this whole situation. So we walked across 42nd Street, and these Japanese men ran up to me. Oh, they were so happy to see this. And I gave them all my peace signs, of which this was the most clear one, because we couldn't speak to each other. And they pressed into my hand, and I should have those sometime and see if we can get some bigger pictures. These beautiful little teeny enamels of the bikini and all the tests in the South Pacific. So they were so thrilled to see this image that's so very clear about what it is. So the whole question about this, now I was 15 when this happened. The U.S. we had just finished the war in Europe, and the talk is that we had to do something like this to end the war in Japan. But my understanding is that the Japanese had already sent out signs to work with a peace agreement. But we didn't want the Russians involved in any peace agreement in the Pacific. So we went ahead and did it. We'd done it. And that's one of the problems I see with artificial intelligence, with just about everything we do. If we have the smarts to be able to do something, we can't bear not to go ahead and do it. It's like me writing something and deciding I should publish it. Those are two very different decisions. I should have the freedom to try to write something, and you do too, and create something, but then to reproduce it, to push it into production. And AI to me is something like that. It might be used for good, but the dangers of it is so great that even the protagonists about it, like Elon Musk, said, it will take over us. But here we have some hope for the future. You see this little guy? Scott, is it okay? Do you see him? Well, anyhow, he's eating a leaf, and he's a part of my repertoire of different containers that I have, like.
Yeah. And I was on mute. I apologize. You were displaying them just fine.
I was good. That's good. So I have here some other the containers. I saved these all year so that I'm having them available when the season comes. The season is very late and it's so hot. One of the reasons they come up from Mexico, from Michoacan in the south of Mexico, is because it's supposed to be cooler. I think it's too hot this year to do this well because I haven't seen much rain. Let's see what we have here. Hello, are one of you in here? Here's let's see, is there somebody eating away here? Ah, yes, there is. There's another one eating away in this container. So I think you can see at the bottom there's poop. So that's what you do if you raise these. At a certain point, you don't have to raise them right in the beginning. The poop is really teeny, like a grain of sand. But as it gets bigger and bigger, the poop gets bigger and bigger. So I think you can see through this glass bottom some black stuff. That's poop.
We can see that.
You could. Good. So that's the hopeful thing. And I do have some hopeful flowers that are in my yard. Great tall ones. And I cut some of these off just halfway. Can you imagine? This is standing on the floor now. This is like 4 feet. And so I also have, gosh, did I bring it in? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Now, when we're done with our program today, I'll take this milkweed, this fresh milkweed, and take the poop out of those containers and put some fresh leaves in. And then here is what they call butterfly weed, or properly buddleia. And boy, oh boy, at this season, it's growing so fast, and it needs to be cut back. You can see the brown. You can see all the brown stuff. I'm not sure how. I'll try to get the light better on it. You can see the brown finished ones, and then you can see the beautiful other ones. And they come in white and yellow. They're not in my territory. They're an invasive species. It's still warm enough here apparently that they grow when you don't want them. But I love them, and the butterflies love them. So they're not the only invasive species that I welcome at all. Okay, so there's that. So I want to tell you a little bit about the nuclear thing. I've also been asked to give a talk on Nagasaki Day, which is Friday, which is the 9th. For Nagasaki, with the third we bombed too. We did it twice, and that was the Christian group that we got, the Nagasaki, the cathedral. That was where the most Catholics in the country were in Japan at that time. But it doesn't matter to me which religion. It's just we were on top of the world, and we were the only ones who had it. So I did not grow up with getting under your desk. That might have been another generation. Was that your generation, Scott? Oh, muted again.
Okay, go ahead and repeat your question, please, Trina.
Were you asked to get under your desk in case of?
I don't have a memory of that, though. I'm exactly in that target space, and it was in the middle of Montana, and we had ballistic missiles throughout the state, so we were one of the primary targets. But I don't remember going underneath any tables. Okay,
well, an interesting reality to that. I want to go through my own nuclear experience because we're at a terrible, terrible, risky time right now with both the Ukraine war and the war in Israel. If that should go further, and if you want to look up two horrible possible situations, one is called the Hannibal option. Just look it up. I don't think I want to share what it's all about today. It's pretty terrible stuff. And then the other one is even worse. It's called the Samson option from the Old Testament. That's Samson and Delilah. And that's apparently two options that are on the table. If worse comes to worse, that people are being defeated totally, they can do terrible things. And we're in that precarious situation. But back to my experience. I was 15. It was summertime. It was this day. And I was at my grandmother's, and I remember hearing about it on the radio. And I just broke my head to try to think, how can a little teeny atom do such terrible damage? And I remember running across to see if anybody knew any more about this. And of course they didn't. And gradually I learned more about it, but I still don't understand it. Do any of you understand how such energy can come from such a little bit of matter? We do know more how everything is energy in a way that we didn't know before, but it's scary, scary stuff. And we're playing around with it like we can dare use it and play with it and threaten people with it. It happens in India or Pakistan or Israel or Russia or us. And we've gotten rid of some of the treaties that were trying to help us. So Montana is interesting because there was a family reunion once. And here's Trina with all her peace activism. And there's my brother who works for Boeing and is then His job was to go around to nuclear facilities and go down and to make sure that the instruction manuals for all the guys that are down there, there are 2 in each of those silos in Montana and the other states that had them. And his job was to go and make sure, like he had to decide if you had to explain how to change a light bulb, which way to turn. If you had to go to that detail for writing manuals. He was very good at writing manuals. That was his job. And he was also at Cape Canaveral teaching people there about missiles, because he had to leave early one morning and I had all my peace posters there, like the one here behind me. And I laid them on the floor to the bathroom over which he was going to walk. So he saw me that. And he then showed my mother and me one of the kind of books that they left there. It was about that thick, right? About 3 inches thick. And he wouldn't let us touch it or hold it, but he showed it to us. This was one of the manuals that he had written for these men who are down there, that there are always 2 of them, so that they can be clear about the instructions given and then fire those missiles out of those holes in the ground. My goodness, I guess they're still operative and they're still alive, because we haven't done so much. And now we're putting more money into improving them. Oh boy, oh boy. So how do you improve death? I don't know. So I'm really ashamed of our country being so intent on that. And I don't like it that we make enemies, so many enemies, instead of talking to people. I got a beautiful email from Jill Stein, who's running for president, talking about this dire situation. And she says, this could be stopped with a phone call. Stopped with a phone call. Maybe 2 phone calls. Who are the negotiators and the peacemakers in our time? So blessed are the peacemakers. They shall be called the children of God. So that's what we need, dear people. We figure out, each of us, how to work for peace, pray for peace. This morning's Mass, by the way, when this happened, the Mass for August 6th is the Mass of the Transfiguration. And the introit, this little verse from the scriptures that is read when the Mass begins, is called, "The earth shook and trembled." The earth shook and trembled. And that was quite powerful. So the earth is shaking and trembling, waiting for the prophets of peace that come and do their work. And my theme is radical sharing, freely chosen. That could really change things a lot if we would take that up and see that the people who have so much control really have enough. They have enough to eat. They have enough places to live. They are fine. Let's share. Let's share. Let's share. So I guess that's my message. Radical sharing, freely chosen, and let's work against the powers of death and export love and hope. Amen, everybody. Thank you.